Hey, good morning. I thought I'd shoot a quick video here. A question that just came up, and I thought it would be kind of appropriate to do a quick Facebook Live on. And the question was, I'm just starting to invest in commercial real estate, apartment buildings, and how do I start contacting sellers? So that was kind of question number one. And then the second question was, and what resources do I use to kind of verify? It looks weird with my hat on. Maybe I'll take it off. What resources should I use to kind of verify the numbers that a seller is giving me? And so, at a very high level, I think it's important. This particular lady was asking specifically on how to contact sellers from Craigslist. So she's emailing them. And my initial thought or response to that was number one, be very clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve in this first email. And my first suggestion was the idea of contacting a seller for the first time. You're just trying to set up a time to have a conversation with them. Because as an owner of apartments myself or commercial properties, if someone's asking too many questions in an email, I'm probably not going to take them that seriously. So ideally, you're just trying to set up a time to have a conversation. And then on that first call, you may ask a few questions to qualify whether or not they would be open to selling. And then secondly, and most won't, that's just the reality. A lot of people are not going to be interested in selling. And actually with a coaching client that I'm working with, because he's reaching out to people, not using Craigslist, but a different strategy that I've suggested to him. I said, if they're not interested in selling, ask them if they're buying. Because at the end of the day, when you're a new investor, you're just trying to gather as much information and intel as possible. So you want to know who the buyers are and who the active sellers are. Anyways, so that's a bit of a tangent. So initially in that first email, you're just trying to set up a time to either meet with them in person. That would be ideal. But most guys or girls are not going to want to do that, especially if they're successful owners. So like meeting in person, if that doesn't happen, then on a phone call, try to suss it out whether or not they would be interested or open to the idea of selling. And if they are open, then really all you're trying to get is what are called the T12 or trailing 12 months. And they may be reluctant to give that out. I probably wouldn't. But beyond that, what I would say is, can you just tell me what your average rents are? Once I know what the average rents are, then I can start to figure out, based on my understanding of the market, what the expenses are. You may want to ask what kind of vacancy they have, but really a seller's probably only going to tell you what the current vacancy is. They're probably not on their fingertips going to say, well, it's operating at a 7% vacancy over the year. So you just have to, I think that the key point is that initially you're not going to have probably all the information that you need in order to know the exact numbers in terms of making an offer, but you should be able to, especially with a little bit of research, and that's kind of where we'll get into next here, you should be able to have a very high level understanding of the property. And so, for example, if I'm looking at a property online and I know the address, I'll go drive it because that is key. In commercial real estate, because you only need one or two deals, I would look at not just that property though, I would look at all the different properties in that area. I would take the addresses down, I would make notes, I would take videos or pictures of each property, and I would make kind of mental notes of what each property had, that I liked, that I didn't like, things that could be improved, things that maybe I would want to discuss with the vendor. And the reason for that is the more kind of intel and research that you put into a property, when you have that conversation with a seller, hey, I just drove by your property at 123 Main Street and I noticed, X, Y, and Z on it. And I'm just wondering, is that impacting your rents? Is that impacting your vacancy? I noticed that there's a building going up across the road and I stopped in and grabbed a brochure. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. Just I don't know how to describe it. It's just really getting to be kind of the market expert, and then vendors or owners in those areas will take you a lot more seriously. So that I think really just comes down to research and time in your market. So that's kind of comment number one. As it relates to research, one of the best places to go is just going to kind of your city or I guess your city or town's website and looking up to understand what the property taxes are, because all that is public record. Especially if you have an address, you should be able to pull the property that you're looking at. At a bare minimum, you're going to be able to pull what's called the mill rate, and the mill rate is how they assess properties in terms of, so in Calgary, our mill rate on commercial properties might be 1.5%. In Texas, in a lot of counties and areas that I'm looking at, it could be as high as 2.7 to 2.9%. So that's just going to give me, so if it's $1 million and it's assessed and the mill rate's 2.9%, then I can kind of quickly back into how much my taxes are going to be. Insurance, that can simply be a phone call to an insurance broker in the area. And then as it relates to coming up with some of the other expenses, there's a lot of rules of thumb. I think I've written articles on that in the past, and you can kind of check those out on my website. Or frankly, what I would do is I would just probably look at properties for sale in some of these markets and just look at what the expenses are for utilities, property management. You could certainly call property managers and have those conversations too. So it's not nearly as hard as some people would make it out to. But I know, anytime you do something new for the first time, it can be overwhelming. And so what I would say is just take your time. I wouldn't rush out to start making contacts with sellers initially. You can, because I would certainly encourage people to take action over, just kind of planning forever. But what I would say is certainly research is going to be your key to being successful in this business. And then I guess just as a mindset, you only need one of these deals to do well. And so if it takes a year to find the right one, that's okay. Anyways, any questions, comments, thoughts, or things that you would like me to talk about on these Facebook Lives, by all means, let me know below. I'm trying to make sure that I cover as many different topics as I think that people would like to hear. And but obviously, if I hear directly from you, then I'll know more specifically the types of challenges that maybe you're running into. And if there's anything else that I can do to assist, by all means, I'm happy to help. So please leave a comment below what you liked. Maybe don't tell me what, well, I don't know. You can comment in terms of what you didn't like, or maybe a suggestion in terms of what I could cover next time. That would be helpful. I just really want to focus on positive things, because a person can pick apart anything, and I'm not really interested in that. I really want to focus on how can I serve you better, number one, and number two, what are the challenges that you're having, and then what I will do is I will put more energy into making sure that these Facebook Lives cover those topics. So that's it. I don't know if you can tell, but the water looks like it is getting, I think it's good enough. I'm gonna go for a ski. Bye for now.